Hello. Anybody out there? Welcome to the show. All Things Overlanding Live is on. Who else is on? If you are on the live chat, I would love it if you would post up and say hi so that I know who's here. I'm trying to get overlandradio.com going, but something is going on. It is not happy. It's reading me, but it's not working right. And I don't know why. Interesting. All right, so yeah, if you guys are there on YouTube, post up in the comments and let me know. Today's topic, we're going to dive into a little bit, but we're going to be talking about packing. We're going to talk about tips for packing, storage ideas, which is basically tips for packing. I guess I'm saying the same thing over and over again. Oh man, Andrew is here. Kurt, what's up? Dylan is here. Sound works. Man, it's like I know what I'm doing finally after a month and a half. Lies. It's all lies. Well, howdy, everybody. Sorry, I'm multitasking because the radio part of this thing is just not working. It didn't really last time either, but I may have to scrap it and then pull the audio and send it to the radio folks after this. But anyways, how's everybody doing tonight? Justin, Dylan, howdy guys. Good to see you, Justin. Justin is a buddy of mine who just got an adventure motorcycle. And we're talking about figuring out a trip to take together, so that could be fun. So welcome, St. Louis Arch. I know I keep calling you that, but that's you, right? Brett? Am I right? Or am I just confusing two people? Just, you don't have to give your name out or anything, but just tell me if I'm right. So yeah, anyways, let me go through my normal spiel. Everybody that's here, I think except maybe Justin, has been here before, so thanks for coming back and spending time with me. I know you guys must be really bored, stuck in quarantine to be spending every Thursday night with me, but I appreciate it. I feel special and I like it. But for the people that are new, if you're new to the channel or if you're watching this after the live stream, my name is Fletch. I run this channel called All Things Overlanding. What we talk about here is all things overlanding. We talk about overlanding stuff. We talk about Nissan stuff, Xterra stuff, but not specifically, not only Nissan and Xterra stuff. We talk about gear, we talk about do-it-yourself mods, things like that. So if you're interested, if you enjoy this live chat, if you watch the content again later or you're new, click that subscribe button, click the bell to be notified when new content drops. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram. You can go to my website, allthingsoverlanding.com. There's blogs and stuff on there too. So check me out wherever you want. I'm also on all major podcast channels, so enough self-promotion. That's, if you look anywhere, you'll probably find something by me being annoying. So, Keith, have you talked to... Okay, I thought I'm confusing you with someone else. Thank you, Keith. Good to have you. So let's dive into the topic tonight. So hopefully you guys brought some ideas and stuff, but I'm going to be talking about both packing for overland trips and also how to save space. And where my quote-unquote expertise comes for this is I've literally spent the last 4 years trying to find ways to reduce the footprint of gear inside my truck. So for those of you that aren't familiar, I have an '05 Nissan Xterra. I don't have a trailer, which we did talk about a couple weeks ago. Trailers are an excellent option. I think they sound amazing, and if I had a place to store one, I probably would have one. But since I don't, I've literally been on a 4-year quest to just try and reduce the amount of gear and the size of the gear that I've got so that I can actually enjoy my trip and not be loaded to the gills where I can't see out my windows and have so much weight in the truck that, my MPG is even worse than it already is. So yeah, I remember you, St. Louis Arch. I was thinking that you were this other guy, Brett, that has messaged with me before. So sorry about that. Have you gotten your trailer yet, by the way? Let me know. Post in the comments. But so let's get started on the topic for tonight. So again, packing and space savings. Again, I have a lot of experience with this, but I'm sure you guys do too, and you guys have some cool ways that you're doing it. Probably a lot that are better than mine. So let's talk about it. So I want to kind of start off by talking about the ways that I pre-pack for a trip. And when I say ways, I mean different tactics, right? Different approaches to pre-packing for a trip. The one that I kind of started with, so years ago, was, and if you've watched any of my videos on YouTube way back in the day when they were even worse than they are now, I used to use these 68 quart Plano crates. And I still really stand by this. I think it's a great way to pack, especially if your vehicle is your daily driver, right? If you have to take everything out of the truck or SUV or whatever every day when you're done with your trip and, offload it to a shelf in your basement or a storage place in your garage, something like that. The Plano crates for me were great. And so for reference, if you are an Xterra person, 3 of those 68 quart Plano crates fit perfectly in the back of an Xterra, like seats up. They fit perfectly right up against the back tailgate, and it gives you a flat surface on top to stack other gear. So that was kind of okay, you still have a few weeks until you get your trailer. Cool. I can't wait. When you get it, you need to share pictures and stuff with us on the Facebook page. But so if you have an Xterra, you pack those 3 68 quart Plano crates across the back, and you have a flat surface to pack other stuff on top of. But I basically had one that was like cooking stuff and dry goods, so like breads and that sort of stuff that needed to be protected but didn't need to go in the cooler. I had one that was like recovery gear and lighting and power, and then I had a third one that was like everything else, right? So like blankets and clothes and just anything else that didn't fit in those other 2 categories. So that was kind of how I did it for like the first year and a half probably. And eventually then I just got tired of so there are pros of that, right? It is nice if you can keep everything in the bins that they go in. Then that's nice, right? Because you could just label them and you could know. My problem is I camp year round, so like there's certain things that only go in the winter, certain things that only go in the summer. So I'm constantly moving stuff in and out of bins, and for me it was a huge hassle. Like I was constantly opening a bin and going, okay, wait, this has boots in it. Why do I have boots in here? Where are my hand warmers? I don't need waterproof boots. I need hand warmers. And so I was constantly shuffling stuff back and forth and back and forth. And it just kind of got tiresome, right? And then I would put some in the garage, but then I'd run out of room and I'd put some in the basement. And then like I'm climbing up on top of things to get to the thing in the garage, and then that's not the bin I need, so I'm going to the basement. And it was just a nightmare, right? So there are some pros. Again, if you have to use your truck or vehicle every day and you have to take stuff out, and especially if you can be organized and like label them and keep everything in a certain spot, bins can be great. And after this chat, I'll update the comments and I'll put links to all this stuff too. So if you don't have these things, or if you're looking for these things, I'll try and make it as easy as possible. But they're pretty great, and I still have them. I still use them for gear storage now outside of the truck. So all the extra stuff that I've got, I store them in my basement in those 3 Plano crates, and now I've got them labeled. And since they don't go in and out of the truck, I can keep stuff in them. So yeah, you guys post up in the comments anything that you guys do to pre-pack. Like what types of bins do you guys use? If you use bins, like what are your strategies for pre-packing? Feel free to comment those in the comments while I'm just kind of yammering on here. And I'm going to catch up with the comments really quick. So St. Louis Arch says no, should be a couple weeks. Yep, on the trailer. Kurt says 0 space savings, but working on getting dedicated storage totes to organize my gear so it's quick deploy and easy, fast to pack. Yep, that's perfect. Then St. Louis Arch says he will share pics of it in the high Rockies. Yeah, cool, Keith. That sounds way cooler than Indiana. I can't wait to see those. So crates, bins, those are an option, right? And again, that's kind of what I started with. Then another thing, so then after that came my drawer system. So again, I kind of hit the point where I bought another vehicle that was my daily. So the truck became more of an overlander and less of a daily driver. So I said, you know what? I am tired of moving stuff in and out. I want to make this more permanent. So I worked with a buddy of mine who's a super talented woodworker, and we built a custom drawer system. I think I can actually show you. I'll go find the picture first, and then I'll throw it up here on the screen. So again, if you're not familiar with it, you'll be able to see it. But this drawer system is amazing. Like this dude is super talented. But so it's basically 2 drawers on the left side. So as you're looking in the back of the Xterra, there's 2 drawers, probably about 10 or 11 inches tall each, and we put dividers in them that are adjustable and movable, so you can customize what you're storing in there and like how big each enclosure is. But okay, there's a picture. Yeah, they were on the picture for this chat, but let me find you guys a better one. But so there's 2 drawers off to the left, and then to the right side is a big slider that has the grill. So my Coleman 2-burner stove sits inside of that. Oh, here we go. This is a good one. Let me share my screen with you guys here. All right, there we go. Can you see that? So this is the drawer system, right? So again, there's two big drawers over here on the left side. These little gray things here, let me see if I can zoom. These are actually pantry locks. Sounds funny, but again, I'll put links in the description to this stuff, but they basically are like locks that are meant to keep kids out of your pantry. That's actually, I bought one of them to use on my pantry, and then it didn't work. My kids figured it out, or my wife got tired of having to unlock and lock that thing all the time, so we just took it off. But so I was like, man, that would work perfect for keeping a drawer from opening. So you can buy locking drawer slides, but they cost like twice as much as non-locking drawer slides, and I'm cheap. So I bought non-locking drawer slides and then these little $10 pantry locks, and they work fantastically. And so those are over there on the left side. Those keep those drawers closed. But so basically now when I pack, I've got food over here in this drawer. This is mostly food. Over here is like lighting and power, so like power banks and things like that. And then in the bottom drawer, which is slightly taller, and I've got less from a divider standpoint, so bigger spaces to use. I've got stuff like folding chair, a little small, my Marchway folding chair. I've got a pillow. I've got my wash basin for cleaning dishes, all the heating stuff, hand warmers, all that sort of stuff in the bottom drawer there. And then this thing on top here is actually, it houses a battery. So again, preaching to the choir here, but there's a battery in there that's hooked up to my solar panel on the hood. And it's got 6 different ports here on the box where you can plug stuff in via USB or DC or AC. There's an inverter on the side, so I use this as sort of a charging station that's separate from my main starter battery, so I don't have to worry about killing it. And then this thing over here is the main slider. So these sliders here will hold 250 pounds. And then again, that grill is housed inside of there. But then I've got right now on this picture, you can see a 7-gallon water jug and a 20-quart cooler. But eventually I'll have a fridge freezer on there. And then that slides out 36 inches, and then you can slide another slider out of the inside of that slider, that drawer basically, with the grill in it. So it kind of makes a cooktop / grill holder, if you will. So that was my next solution. And personally for me, I love that. Again, if you needed to if I need to go to the store and throw lumber in the back, that ain't happening, right? So there are pros and cons to everything. But if you don't daily drive your vehicle, then, something like a drawer system may work for you, right? So that was kind of the next iteration that I did. And now a bunch of people have posted, so I want to stop talking about myself and go catch up with you guys here. So what do we got? So Andrew says he uses Alubox 42s and 60-liter boxes. Those are really nice, but how much did those things cost, Andrew? How much are those things? They're pretty pricey, I think. So I agree with you. I think they're fantastic. I've looked at the front runner boxes and stuff too, and they're awesome, but damn, they're expensive. Like, even the front runner boxes are what, like 80, 100 bucks a piece or something? I have beer again, by the way, guys. Are you happy for me? I got beer. That was like the last 2. I haven't had any beer. So now I have beer, so we're good. Kurt says, my only organization is my recovery gear in a bag, but that's smart. I mean, I had a big problem with that where I had stuff randomly thrown, or I had them in like a bag that it wasn't even the right size, so then I would leave stuff at home. And I love the idea of like a dedicated recovery bag. I'll see if I can find you a picture. I don't know that I've got one, but I actually solved that recovery. So in the front of that drawer, and yeah, you probably won't be able to see it, but in the front of this drawer, so here's a picture of it with it out, so you can kind of see what I was talking about, right? The grill sticking out there. So that's kind of how it works. I've got the chainsaw that rides right up beside the cooler there. Got the wash basin sitting on top of the water jug once I lay it down. There's the grill. So this is kind of how it pops out of the back of the truck. But in the back here, that's all hollow, right? So you can see that there's sort of a wall there on the box. Inside of that, I actually had my buddy cut out an entry hole in the back here and leave a little lip. And all my recovery stuff is in here. So it's actually inside of the drawer, offsetting the weight of this stuff, and it's permanently in the truck. And I've got jumper cables, 3 D-rings, 30-foot by 4-inch recovery strap. I've got the high lift, the thing that goes on the high lift that has the 2 straps with the hooks on them so that you can pick up your vehicle by the wheel or the slider if you want. All that stuff fits inside that box. So that's my solution for it. But I love your idea, Kurt, of the dedicated bag. So again, if you're not keeping it on you every day, if you're dailying it, for a month and then you go on a trip, I love the idea of just being able to grab a recovery bag, and you're good to go. Okay, Kurt says that he posted a picture on his Facebook, Instagram, I think. Okay, cool. Kurt also says he has a first tactical EMS bag. That's smart. The Xteras come stock with a what do you call it? With a first aid kit, and it's actually fairly comprehensive. I was actually pleasantly surprised with it. I've used it quite a bit. I have kids, so they get cut and scraped a lot, and we use Band-Aids out of that thing all the time, and it is packed with stuff. It even has some scissors and some gauze strips and all kinds of stuff, but first aid is definitely an important thing to have with you, for sure. Jim says, for small items, a hanging shoe caddy with clear pockets. That's smart. Can be trimmed to fit about anywhere, like the back of the passenger seat from the headrest support. That's a super smart idea. Dylan says, what video editor do you use? I use Final Cut Pro. I'm a Mac guy. So I started on iMovie when I started making videos, and then not that I'm any sort of fancy video editor or anything, but I kind of hit my limits pretty quick with iMovie, and then I moved into Final Cut because it's so similar. It was a super easy switch. Andrew says $200 plus a box. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad that you're single, man. Good for you. $200 a box. You crazy. No, I'm just kidding. No, they're awesome. I mean, that's the thing too, is yours will last forever. My Plano crates are plastic, right? So a couple of my handles have already broken in the last couple of years. You definitely get what you pay for. But those 68 quart, I mean, a 68 quart Plano crate is like, it's pretty big. I mean, it's probably like a foot and a few inches deep, probably like a few feet long, and then like a foot and a half across. And it was like $23 a piece. So you know me, I'm cheap. I bought 3 of those things, and it was like $60-$70. So it just depends on what you want to spend, right? Like, but your stuff too, again, will last forever. So that's great. Would that rack fit on the bike? Justin says. What rack are you talking about, my friend? St. Louis Arch says yellow rose rye for me right now is what he's drinking. Cool. I am drinking this new Rheingeist Cloud Harvest 01 unfiltered juicy IPA. It's actually pretty decent. I like it. And then in backup, I've got, have you guys ever had hazy little thing called IPA from Sierra Nevada? It's actually a really strong entry, and it's like $8.99 for a 6-pack. They have a new one that I've never seen before, but it's a really fantastic sour. It's called Sierra Nevada Wild Little Thing, and it's like a strawberry sour, which I haven't been huge on sours, but I like mixing things up a little bit. And this thing it's pretty good. For a cheap sour, it's pretty good. All right, so Andrew says 42 liters are $265 each, 60 liters are $285 each. Damn. Okay. Those are really nice. When you want to sell them used for like $50 a piece, let me know. I will scoop them all up. You never will, but yeah, those things are sweet. And you have a trailer too. Man, you're just killing me. See, getting married, man. Pros and cons. I hope my wife's not watching. St. Louis Arch says there are collapsible hard boxes on Amazon, might be good for vehicle storage and not too expensive. That's a good idea. I feel like I've seen those before too. I'll have to do some research on those and see if I can find some links for you guys. But yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, if you're not carrying super heavy stuff like recovery and stuff like that, perfect for like blankets or food, or you know what I mean? Like, and to be able to collapse them, that's the problem with the Plano crates, is whether I have stuff in them or not, they take up a ton of space. Jim says, don't forget about stolen milk crates. Okay, I'm not advocating stealing, but that's true. Kurt says he uses the EMS bag as the recovery gear bag. Oh, I get you. Just tagged you on Instagram so you can see it. Cool. I'll go look at it afterwards. Thanks, Kurt. St. Louis Arch says I have an ammo can for first aid. Includes tourniquet, chest seals, quick plot, etc. That's cool. That's a great idea. I have a couple of old ammo cans sitting around that I don't keep ammo in anymore because all my stuff started to like get rotten and gross. So I bought a plastic ammo can that's been working a lot better. And then Kurt says, yes, recommend Voodoo Ranger Juicy Haze. That is pretty good. The Juicy Haze Voodoo Ranger is good. Yeah, it's a little better than Hazy Little Thing, but it's like $1 more, man. I'm cheap. Come on. It's like $9.99 on sale for a 6-pack of that stuff. All right, we're getting diverted here. So, but that was a good conversation. Thank you, guys. We can talk beer all night long, I know. I love those boxes. Okay, Andrew says he's going to keep the alu boxes, aluminum, keep them until they break, and likely just repair them if they do. Yeah, I mean, you'll have those forever, right? So if you're big into overlanding and you have the money, get the good stuff, you know? So after the drawer system, now speaking of Andrew and his fancy big money and his trailers, right? Another great way to pack and save space in your rig. First aid kit would be a good chat topic. Yeah, we can do that next time. But so speaking of trailers, right? So trailers are also a great way to sort of pre-pack. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, so I'm not going to belabor the point, but like I love the idea of like having a trailer backed into my garage that already has 95% of everything on it, and I pack up like food in a cooler and throw it in my Xterra and back up and hook up the hitch and drive off. Like that to me is the ultimate packing and space savings, except it doesn't really save you space whenever you're not using it, right? Because you have to store this trailer. So that kind of depends on your situation. If you're in a slightly more rural area and you've got like a barn or something, or if you've got, plenty of room in your garage, a trailer is a good option. But I just love that idea of getting out quicker and having everything in a predetermined location because, again, going back to the boxes, it's a pain in the butt when you move things around and there's not like one set spot. So I think trailers are like kind of the ultimate way to pre-pack and just be ready to go and also save you space inside of your rig. But there's a cost, there's storage, there's things to consider, right? So pros and cons. And then the last one I had, and you guys can argue with me if you want, but I think that a rooftop tent, and that's kind of the reason why I just built my own do-it-yourself rooftop tent, is a great way to free up space inside your rig. And again, you can't argue with me. I mean, I think that makes perfect sense, right? Again, if you don't think so, post up and tell me. But like that was the last few remnants of stuff that I had in my truck after I built the drawer system were a big old tent. So I had a Coleman, one of those Instant Up, the things with the fiberglass poles that you basically fold down like a laundry basket, some of those pop-up laundry baskets. But even folded, it was probably like 3 feet across. I mean, it was big. And it folded, it was maybe about like that thick, maybe like 3 or 4 inches thick, but about 3 feet across, and it was a circle. So, you had to find a spot. Like I'm blocking a window with that thing to get it in there or laying it flat and then trying to pile stuff on top of it. It took up a ton of space. So there was that. When I was tent camping, I had a cot because I got tired of sleeping on the ground. So, it's probably about that big around and like 3-4 feet long. So I had just a Coleman cheapy cot. It was a pain in the butt to set up. I hurt my hands every time trying to get those stupid end poles on the cot. That took up room. Then I had a sleeping bag. Plus then I had 2 2-inch thick memory foam mattresses rolled up into a ball. So, that thing was basically like that big around and probably about 20, I know exactly. It was about 27 inches long. So that took up a person's worth of room, right? Like it would take up a whole seat just for that. So, and then pillow. There's so much stuff. So like with a rooftop tent, there's just a ton of extra storage. You can get your stuff up out of it. It saves you time opening up and getting set up for camp. It saves you time packing down and putting stuff away. It's just, in my opinion, that's a huge space saver. And a huge convenience, right? So those were kind of the things that I was thinking of there as far as rooftop tents go. So now that I've done that, man, I have so much room in the truck. It's amazing. Like I could literally get both my kids in the back and still have a whole person's worth of space that I never had before. So let's catch up here. So, all right. So Andrew says, keeping the bedding in the rooftop tent definitely saves space in the vehicle. Yep, agreed. Jim says, what about a chuck box like the Boy Scouts use? I like that a lot. And Jim, if you haven't seen, I hold this up, I feel like every live chat. This is basically my soft chuck box. Now I've got my griddle sticking out of the top. That's not where it normally goes, but this is one of my last US bags, but it folds in half. This thing is so cool. I love this thing. That's why I just keep it right here until it's time to go camping. But it's got room for utensils. I've got microfiber towels and like hand sanitizer and soap and stuff in here. The utensils, actual utensils down here. So like these are like spatulas and cutting knives and cutting boards and things like that. These are more like, the utensils you would use to eat with. And then this actually has a big handle on the top. And then this unzips down the middle. And I don't know if you've seen my review of this, you've seen this thing, but this is basically my chuck box. But then it unzips all the way and you can lay this flat. And so then in here, I've got all my bigger stuff like cooking sprays, seasonings, things like that. I just toss stuff in the middle there. And then on the other side, I've got all my, what do you call these things? Mess kits. I've got 2 Yuko-Ware mess kits up here. And then in the bottom down here, I've got all my pots and pans. So all my cooking stuff, right? So this is the same idea as a chuck box, basically, right? I like the idea of a chuck box. So if you didn't have a drawer system and, you have that rigidity, and the room back there for it, a chuck box is a great idea. So yeah, what else would be brewing would be a good sponsor of ATO. Agreed, Kurt. I actually love their beers. And I know a guy who's good friends with the owner, so I need to get the word out there. So thank you for the heads up. I need to get on that. Hey, that hiking guy, what's up, man? Good evening. Kurt says, also FYI, I reached out to Gazelle Tent for a group buy, but no response. Yeah, I actually won a patch from Gazelle Tent by a something tag a friend kind of a thing. And I had a little bit of trouble getting a hold of them, but they were super nice. So just keep at it. All right, St. Louis Arch says the chuck boxes are so big, though, a bit heavy for taking in and out. Yeah, so I feel like, have you guys seen those things recently? I feel like there's like this big sort of push towards the wooden boxes that are like really well designed, and they kind of all come apart, and you've got like shelving and stuff that they basically come out into like a really low cooking surface, right? Like table and stuff for pots and all this stuff. I've seen a few of them and been to come up with my own design and like have my woodworking buddy help me build one. Just something like a little folding table that was like custom designed for exactly my gear. Because I feel like the cost would be very minimal, right? And it wouldn't be super complex to build. But so that's kind of along the lines of that chuck box idea. I love the idea of having something that's portable and custom designed just for the stuff that I've got. So I like that idea. But yeah, it could be heavy. I mean, you got to be careful with, materials and things like that. Cool. All right, we're caught up on the comments. So the next thing that I kind of wanted, the next sort of big topic here that I wanted to cover was tactics for saving space, right? So we've talked about ways to save space, like things that you could use, like a rooftop tent or a trailer or bins or a drawer system. But as far as just all gear goes, right? Tactics that can be used overarchingly, right? Over St. Louis archingly. Huh. Jeez. I need. So one of the tactics that I have employed successfully is I got really, for a while, and I don't know what made me do this, but I got really into backpacking gear. And you have to be a little bit careful because it gets like crazy expensive. Like the prices shoot when you're looking at like true like ultralight stuff. But there's a lot of like cheap knockoff backpacking gear that you can buy that is designed to be super small, obviously, because it's for being carried in a backpack, that can save you a ton of space. So like what I'm thinking of when I say this is like blow up pillows, right? Like I've got one pillow in my truck that's maybe about that big. It's like the size of a tennis ball. And it's self-inflating. You undo a little thing and it blows up, and then you blow a couple breaths into it, and then you've got it's actually really comfortable. I use it all the time. But so like a backpacking style pillow is a great idea. If you don't have a rooftop tent, something like, rather than the giant tents that take up a ton of room, if you're not winter camping, or even if you are, some people hammock camp in the winter, a hammock and a tarp can take up, a few inches by a few inches in your stuff. So you can save a ton of room by, again, focusing on it and thinking of it more like a backpacking trip, but you're packing it in your truck. So I feel like by people I mean companies put labels on things and they call it overlanding, like overlanding grill. And I bought one of these things once. It was like one of those steel grills with like the fold flat legs. And I was like, oh, that's so compact. And I get this thing, and I mean, it's like probably like 36 inches by like 20 inches or something. And it's steel. And yeah, the legs fold up, but they get crusty after a couple of uses and they're hard to fold up. And this thing probably weighed 8-10 pounds. And it was huge, and it gets gross, and it didn't come with a bag. And then I'm like getting grease all over the inside of my truck. And it was just huge. So what I did recently was I just switched over to like all the little backpacking camp cooking stuff. So like the little tiny pots and pans, they all come in like a little bag, and they work perfectly. Like they're great for like a thing of soup or a thing of chili. They're great for like ramen, like all the easy stuff, right? So I think that there's a lot of ways that we can kind of lean on or look at the backpacking world, the backpacking gear stuff. And when appropriate, right? Like when you can sacrifice something, buy something that's designed for backpacking to fit in your truck that'll save you a ton of space. So like, here's another one. So tarps, yeah, I wanted to mention the Kelty Noah tarp. If you don't have a tarp, a good tarp, there's one called the Kelty Noah tarp 9-foot. Oh man, I've had that thing for like 4 years. I've used it a ton. It's got multiple configurations. The quality is super high. It is one of the few tarps I've had that, despite 30, 40 uses probably, has remained waterproof to this day. and it was like 50 or 60 bucks. So like it's a little bit pricier. Like you're going to spend a little more than a Chinese knockoff. But I mean, those things are going to fall apart in 2 or 3 uses. So the Kelty Noah tarp is the Noah tarp, or the tarp of choice for me anyways. And it also comes with a nice little bag, but so the bag's maybe like 6 by 6. So the thing that I like about it is it has a flap and a zipper goes around it. So you can actually, it makes it way easier to fold up the tarp, because that's always my problem, especially with those cheap tarps. They give you a bag that's like smaller than a Ziploc bag. And then once you unfold it, you can never get it back in. But with the Kelty, you totally can. And it still takes up very little room. In my truck, it's in the middle of that bottom drawer. It's just sitting down in there with stuff stacked on top of it. And then on top of that, so gear is one thing, right? So buying smaller stuff, buying more backpacking type gear, I think can definitely help you. Also consolidating things, because I've been very inefficient historically with this, right? So like, for example, that thing that I just held up that has the utensils, the big long one, 2 of those really sharp, knives for like cutting steak and stuff in there. I have 2 of those knives. I don't know why, but I have 2 of those knives. I have a spatula. I have tongs. I have all this stuff, and I never use hardly any of it. So like what I've been looking at, which is going to sound really funny, but like barbecue type stuff, like barbecue implements, there are a ton of them that combine multiple features. So there are like spatulas that have a tong thing built right into them. Now you got to watch, because most of those are huge, right? But if you smaller ones are like a portable barbecue like spatula / tongs, you can combine a number of different things into one piece of gear, which again, I know sounds crazy, but this is the stuff that goes through my head, right? Like I look at stuff that is not intended to be used for overlanding and I say, man, if I could get rid of this whole pack of crap and just take this one thing, then that saves me a ton of space. So just a thought. I'm just throwing it out there. Let me catch up with the comments here, and then I'm going to jump back into like food is the next thing I want to talk about. So I'm talking about actual food, not the gear that you use to cook the food, but how can you be more efficient with packing your food. So we'll get back to, let me catch up with the comments. So that hiking guy said, I'm considering getting a deck system installed in my truck. However, it doesn't install with the bed rug I have in the back, so I have a decision to make. Pros and cons, man, every time. St. Louis Arch says, I like the idea of those kitchen boxes. Yeah, they're sweet. I mean, if I didn't have a drawer system, I would definitely be looking at them and probably have one. St. Louis Arch says, Molly panels for the rear hatch. Yep, that's smart. Windows and behind the seats let you hang a lot of things. So yeah, that's a great point. And I don't know that I've ever like really taken pictures of it or shown it, but I actually repurpose. Again, I never use anything for what it's supposed to be used for, right? But I have on my Xterra it's a Smitty built seat cover intended for a JK, for a Jeep JK. Actually, I was just like, man, that looks like it would fit. And it's one of those universal ones that you use hooks basically to like attach it to the bottom of the seat. But it has molly webbing down both sides of it, and it has around the back of the seat, it has molly all the way down the thing. And it was like maybe like 80 bucks, I feel like. I got it for Christmas one year. I asked the wife for it, and she bought it because she loves me somehow. I don't know why. But this thing, it actually fits really well on the Xterra. And if you know Xterras at all, the driver's side seat has a seam right on the very edge of the seat. And every time you get in and out, in and out, in and out, it wears and they rip. So almost every Xterra seat you ever see on the driver's side will have a rip about like that big in it. So with this, it fixed my rip problem, and it gave me molly all the way up and down the thing. So now I have behind my driver's seat, I have a bunch of fire starting stuff back there. I have a trash bag, one of those reusable things. I have my kids put their trash in there so that I can dump it into the trasheroo when we get to camp. But so molly is definitely good. I've got a bunch of panels. If anybody wants to buy these off of me, let me know. I just have never gotten around to installing them, but they're all aluminum. But I've got 4 molly panels for the doors that are custom made for the Xterra. I forget whether they're orange box or what they are. But I've had these things for like 2 years sitting there, and I have so much storage now that I don't even need them. But so if anybody wants them, but I've got molly panels for the doors, and I just think that's so cool. Like there are people that use it effectively, and I think it's awesome. So good suggestion, Keith. Kurt says backpacking is great for overlanding. As soon as you call something overlanding, the price goes up. Yep, exactly. It's like a wedding cake versus a birthday cake. 100% agree with you. Jim says, anybody know how much a Gazelle costs? I'm pretty sure they're like $200 to $300, which actually doesn't seem unreal. Like the quality of them is really good. They're the style where you just kind of pop out and you probably know this, but the type where you pop out the sides basically. So they're semi instant up tents, but from what I've heard, I know too, they're great quality. They've used them for years. Like they're kind of, I don't know that they're up there with like Oz tent type quality, but that's reminiscent of it to me. Like these are tents that you're going to buy and use for years. So that hiking guy says it does get expensive. Z-Pack's duplex tent weighs 1 pound. Yeah, and it's made of carbon fiber and is outrageously expensive. So yeah, so you have to be very careful, right? So we have that hiking guy. He knows about hiking and backpacking. Thank you for being here. I have a buddy that is big into backpacking, and he has a tent that was like $700. And I was like, are you high? But the thing weighs like a pound or something, which is crazy for the size. Like it's a pretty good sized tent, and it goes up really quick, and it's really light. But he has a bunch of backpacking gear that he spent top money on, and so that kind of was what kind of spurred it for me when I saw that stuff. I'm like, man, this stuff is really trick, but I don't want to spend that kind of money. So again, if you're careful about it and you look around, then you can find similar stuff that will save you a ton of space without having to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on all this stuff. So he says, I backpack all the time, so I can tell you that it is worth a looking into these items for sure. Kurt says, I did find a link to a T4 for sale for $95. Yeah, I don't know if I would trust that either. Kurt says, one cast iron skillet will cook damn near everything and be the only cooking pot pan you need. That's true. I have a cast iron skillet. I'm just bad at keeping it clean, and I forget it all the time. I've actually used it in my house a couple times, and then it gets put away somewhere else, and then I lose it, and then I forget about it. So I just use my little tiny backpacking, pot that's like that big, and it saves me a ton of space. But yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, if you just reduce the amount of gear, right, that'll save you a ton of space. So Dylan says, I think if you had a cargo van, you could have a really efficient system for storage. Yeah, that's true. You look at all those people that like van life stuff that I keep talking about because I'm obsessed with it. They have like entire kitchens and bedrooms and all that stuff in those things, and it is crazy. So if you have that kind of storage, then as long as you organize it well, you could get a ton of stuff in there. So Jim says, anybody looking for a tent should check out the Eureka Camping Center outlet in Binghamton, New York. Google that whole phrase. They have a good website, great prices. I bought about 6. Wow, that's sweet, Jim. Thanks for the tip. So now I'm weird, right? I can't even talk about tents anymore because now I have a rooftop tent, so I'm above the rest of you. No, I'm just kidding. My tent's like $30 tent, and it's stuck in a wooden box. So just think of like a vampire sleeping in a coffin. That's basically what I do. So back to it. Let's get back to food. So talking about food, and I don't have a ton. I'm still new to this, so my typical. Ross, I will get to your comment in a second, even though it is super inappropriate, but it's hilarious. Welcome to the chat, my friend. You didn't get enough of me during the day, so you had to come at night, huh? Okay. So food, right? Currently, what I normally pack, and I think this is a pretty efficient way from a space-saving standpoint, I will take things like canned chili. I will take things like ramen. I will take things like the instant mashed potatoes that you literally just boil some water, dump them in there, throw some butter in there, and you're good to go. So I currently take small stuff like that. A lot of people I know take those mountain houses, which are also great, small footprint, tasty stuff, easy to make. Boil some water, pour it in a bag, shake it up or stir it up or whatever, and you've got a full meal. So those are a great way too to save some room and have some good food. But I'm getting into this whole idea of conserving space while also enjoying my meal. My buddy Grizzy Graham, Andrew from Arkansas Off-Road, he posted up recently and had these meals, and you guys, I know you've all heard of this, but I'm just saying it out loud. He Ziploc bagged it. Took a big old gallon Ziploc bag, and he had shrimp and potatoes and tomatoes and peppers and all this stuff, and he just cut it all up at home, pre-made the whole thing, put it in his cooler, 2 or 3 or 4 bags, depending on how long you're going to be out there. You can have some amazing, delicious meals, and you literally open a Ziploc bag, dump it into your skillet or your cast iron skillet or your scuttle or whatever you've got, cook it up, and you're good to go. So that's my next iteration of this. It takes up a tiny bit more room, but I love the idea of pre-making it all, because then I don't even have to prep it at camp, right? Then I still get the convenience of a ramen or an instant mashed potatoes or things like that, but with delicious food, cut up steak and fajita steaks and things like that. So I definitely think that is a way to go. Preparing your food at home and then, bringing it with you in the bag. And then, yeah, we talked about dehydrated food, backpacking food. Again, that backpacking idea can save us a ton of space. So let me hop over here and get to Ross's inappropriate comment. He says, what about portable bidets? I hear they're really helpful and sanitary. So since he brought it up, Ross has a bidet in real life. I work with Ross. We had a whole conversation the other day on a work call. Not he and I, but like the whole team talking about how amazing they were. So does anybody else have experience with those? Because to me, that weirds me out. I don't have one. I've never had one. I don't know that I could do it. But yeah, I don't know that you could take it with you for overlanding trips, but I'm still, if anybody loves them, post up. Kurt says turbo toilet time. Yes, exactly. That is my next point, is looking for ways to take gear that you have and shrink it down. And Kurt is all about the Black Pine turbo toilet, and I am too, now that I have it. It was about $50. I used to have a 5-gallon bucket, right? The Lowe's 5-gallon bucket with a little seat on the top. But I mean, that thing is 2 feet tall and, a foot-ish across, 10, 12 inches across. And it's huge, and it clanks around, and it takes up a ton of space. And that was like the last vestige, right? After I got everything up into the rooftop tent, I'm like, man, I still have this stupid bucket that I have to take with me all the time. And I started to do some research, and I actually saw a thing on a Facebook group that was like, hey, has anybody heard of this thing called the turbo toilet? And this thing is amazing. So I'm going to do a review of it at some point, but it basically folds down to about that flat, maybe 3.5 inches flat, and maybe about the size of a toilet seat, basically big. But it's flat. So I actually hang it from one of my hooks in the back of my truck, and it just hangs up there and takes up no space basically in the truck whatsoever. So that was like one of the last big pieces of gear that I was super excited to get rid of. So that hiking guy says Idahoan 4 cheese mashed potatoes are the bomb. I have like 6 of those in my drawer system right now. The 4 cheese are good. The sour cream ones are good. The roasted garlic ones are good. All of them are good. They're all good. And all you need is water and butter, right? And you don't even have to have butter, but I just throw a big old scoop of butter in there and put some on your steak, put some on your mashed potatoes. You're good to go. Andrew agrees with that hiking guy. Justin, thank you for the tip, buddy. I appreciate it. Overland Pioneers. Hey, Jeremiah, what's up, man? He says, we rehydrate all our meals, RV water pump and a nozzle. See, it's just, man, and you have to have room for all that Country Boy beer, If I had 48 beers with me on every trip, I would need to save as much space as possible, too. Lucky guy. That hiking guy says, recently got a coffee spit from Firebox Stove. I used it recently and made barbecue chicken thighs over the campfire. That sounds amazing. You know what I just got? I'm going to take it on my next trip, and I'm going to video it, and I'm going to do a review of it. I got a can cooker. You guys heard of the can cooker? It's not exactly a space saver. It's probably a little over a foot across and maybe like 6 or 7 inches tall. Comes with a little bag. It's pretty big, though. Like, it is definitely a stretch to call that something. Yeah, he says no good in his fridge because he has so much beer. Just rub it in. It's fine. But I got this, and I am super excited about it. And that is kind of where that idea of the pre-bagged stuff comes from. So, to give you an example of what you can cook in this thing, it's basically the idea comes from back in the olden days, which I didn't realize this, but I've done some research now. They used to take those big metal milk jugs that they used to fill with cow milk to or whatever. They used to cook stuff in those, which I didn't realize. So now there's this company called the Can Cooker Company, and they make a bunch of different sizes, depths and things like that of these things. But they're basically they're non-stick on the inside, or some of them are, not all of them, but some of them are non-stick on the inside. And you basically just throw crap in them, and then they have a lid that clamps down on them like a pressure cooker, and a little hole that lets the steam vent out. So basically you throw in all your ingredients, you dump in a beer, or you dump in water, or things like that, some sort of 12 ounces of liquid to just kind of steam the stuff. You start with your meats, I think, on the bottom, and then veggies on top. And then you pour your beer, I would use beer, but water, beer, whatever you want to pour in it, over the top of it. And then you basically just set it over a campfire. You get it a little ways away from it. It's more about the heat than the flame. And you just let your food cook in this thing. And it's like a portable pressure cooker that you can cook over a fire with. So I watched this whole 25-minute video of this guy using a can cooker, stew. And it was all my favorite things: mushrooms, potatoes, some sort of steak or something, like a filet or something that he'd cut up. He poured like a stout in it and let it cook for like 50-55 minutes. And I'm telling you, when he opened that thing up, my mouth started watering. Like I was like trying to reach through the screen. And that right there, I went straight out and I bought this can cooker thing. So I'll throw a link in the description to that too if you guys are looking for one. There's a bunch of different variants, but I'm like reasonably excited about this thing. So next trip, I'm going to be using that. I'm going to make a review of it. I'm going to post up some recipes because now I'm like a professional cook. But like for a guy, no offense, not to be sexist at all, but like I'm not going to go out there and prep a bunch of stuff and like be a good cook, but I can take a bag of stuff from home and this thing and set it up and dump some stuff in it and pour a beer over the top and put the lid on it for an hour and come back and have a delicious stew for sure. So yeah, so a lot there. So what do we got here? So Overland Pioneer says, yep, no good in my fridge because he's got all the beers. Kurt says, wait, you don't have 48 beers with you on a trip? You know, that's, I try to be somewhat restrained. 6 a night is probably pretty good for me. So if it's like a 2-night or 3-night, it might be a 12 or 8. And I might stop somewhere on the way and get some local beers too. You never know. But I try to not feel like crap the whole trip. That's not really my goal. That hiking guy says, yeah, the can cookers are cool. So yeah, I'll make a video about that and we'll talk about it for sure. So the last kind of piece here, we're running up on, it's been about 50 minutes. The last kind of piece, I already talked about the toilet, but just looking at the gear. So like what I did when I started to try and reduce my gear was I looked at the things that took up the most space and then started actively trying to reduce that footprint, right? So like I said, I made a rooftop tent. I moved all the biggest things up there. The last thing that I had was that toilet. So I got the turbo toilet and that solved that problem for me. But so, toilets are a good thing versus the 5-gallon bucket. Tents, again, as I've mentioned, there are various kinds of tents. If you can do it, if you're, okay doing it in the winter or you're not a big winter camper and you want to switch to like a hammock and tarp setup, you can go from a tent that's, 3 feet by 3 feet and 4 inches thick to a hammock that's the size of a softball and a tarp that's the size of a softball, So, you could reduce a ton of space there. Like we mentioned, so I've got a Coleman 2-burner grill. I've got a drawer system, so it makes sense, and that thing can pop out. I can store it back there. It doesn't take up a ton of space. But you could switch to, again, hiking stuff, right? Like a jet boil, something like that. That's just super efficient, super small. I've also seen a lot of like smaller, fold flat, portable rocket stoves that I'm kind of getting hooked on. I change my mind all the time, but these things fold basically totally flat and fit in like something the size of an envelope. You basically get to camp, you unfold them, you put a little tube in it, right? And you drop sticks and stuff down in it. And then because of the airflow, it just fries hot air out of the top of the thing. But you could have a thing that's the size of an envelope that is your whole cooking system. And then you could use sticks and stuff on the ground. You don't have to bring any fuel. You don't have to bring any propane. You don't have to mess with making sure that you've packed it. If you have your stove, your rocket stove, you're good to go. You can boil water quickly. So that was another idea I had. And then, if possible, so if you don't have a rooftop tent, you can move stuff to external storage, right? So like you could get one of those roof bags or roof boxes. I've seen recently Wanderlost Overland posted up about using like the gun cases, like using a gun case as a low profile storage solution that they strap to their roof. And they have like 2 of these long rifle cases that they stripped everything out of or like cut the foam inside and custom made spots for all their stuff. They're waterproof. They're not that expensive. Again, they're low profile, so it's not like you have a giant like Plano crate on the roof, right? You just have like a low profile gun crate on the roof or 2. And they did theirs with quick releases too. So really quickly attach it to their roof rack and then you could undo a couple hand screws and like slide it off and pull it down. Same with like hitch mounted storage things, front or throw stuff out there. So as long as it doesn't get in the way, right? Like those are also good ways to get stuff out of the interior of your vehicle and to something external. So that was what I had. So let's catch up here on the last few comments. So Kurt says Jetboil Genesis stove is sick looking. I haven't seen that. I'll have to go look that up. Hiking guy says Yuko flat pack. Yep, I have one of those. I love it. It's a fire pit grill, comes in 2 sizes. So yeah, which one do you have, that hiking guy? I have the big one, about the size of like a laptop is what I would describe it as. Like it's probably about an inch and a half thick. and about 15, 16 inches long and a little bit short from top to bottom. But I actually keep that thing next to my drawer system. It just sits back there and leans against it. It comes with a nice little canvas pouch. It's very affordable. It's like $40, $35, something like that. I actually use it a lot in my backyard just to have little like fires. Like if I have some wood that I have at home and I want to just have a little fire. Built a fire pit recently in our backyard, but before that I would use that thing once or twice a week just to have little fires in the backyard. So, okay, Andrew says the good Plano rifle cases are a couple $100. Yeah, okay, well, I'm cheap. I buy the crappy ones. I have one Plano rifle crate, and I think it was like 40 or $50, something like that. But mine's cheap. I know what you're talking about. The ones that are more rectangular. Mine is more like rifle shaped, like it gets narrower at one end and bigger at the other end. But I think the ones you're talking about, which are the ones I'm thinking of from Wanderlost. There are some really exciting secret updates coming to the channel here really soon. And I actually made a video of it's just so you guys aren't surprised when they happen. I'm going to try and get that edited tonight and maybe posted tomorrow or Saturday, so you'll see that. They're all positive. They're all good to the channel, but there's some exciting new stuff that's coming that I won't ruin, but I'll tease it here and then I'll drop that video later. Another thing is this Sunday is pushing this up tonight too, and I'm going to schedule it as a premiere. But if any of you guys are familiar with Ozark Overland Adventures, his name is Matt McClellan. He's actually been in a few of Arkansas Overland or Off-Roads videos. He is my guest, and I interviewed him a week or two ago, and that's going to be the podcast episode. We'll see that on Sunday, but I'm gonna put that out so you guys can know when it's coming out. So that is coming. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, so all you guys that come around all the time, right? You guys all have awesome, cool, unique rigs. So I did want to throw it out there, and I'm going to mention this in the sort of the things to come on the channel video too, but since you're here, I want to just tell you about it. If you guys want your rigs featured, I would love to like put together a video of your rigs and like talk about it. Since we're all kind of like caught, in this COVID thing right now, if you guys can like walk around your rigs with your smartphone and take a halfway decent video, doing like a rig walk around and talking about your mods, if you want me to feature that on my channel, I'm happy to do that. So just hit me up, send me an email at allthingsoverlanding@gmail.com if you're interested in that, and we can talk about it more. We could do a Zoom call, and I'm happy to like talk to you and do like an interview style thing, and then combine that with you walking around your rig and talking about it. But definitely too, if you guys have channels of your own, YouTube channels, Instagram channels, anything like that, and you want to get some exposure, like I would love to feature you guys on the channel and make a whole video about you. So definitely hit me up. Okay, Andrew says, did my internet cut out? Can you guys see me? Anyways, hopefully you can still see me, but hit me up, all things overlanding. Okay, but you guys can see me now? God, you gotta love technology, man. All right, well, I'm waiting to hear from you guys if you can hear me. I'm drinking a beer. All right, so you can hear me again? Did you guys hear what I said about the rig stuff? Oh, God. Technology. So anyways, what I was saying was send me stuff about up on allthingsoverlanding@gmail, or shoot me a message on Facebook or Instagram if you guys are interested in being featured. Again, I would love to talk to you guys about that and, see your guys' trucks and make a video about it and shine some light on you guys and send some people to your channels too. So just hit me up however you want, email, Instagram. But so that's it. That's what I got for tonight. So again, thank you guys, everybody, for being here tonight. Kurt, Andrew, Keith, got that hiking guy. Well, thank you for being here. Overland Pioneers, Jeremiah, good to see you. Justin, thanks again for the tip, buddy. I appreciate it. Who else we got? Ross, thanks for being here. Jim, Dylan. I'm just going to go through it. I'm going to say you all. You can just watch or you can leave. Sorry. I think that's everybody. I think that was pretty much it. Yep, cool. So thank you guys all for being here. I really appreciate it. You guys don't know how much it means to have you regular guys hanging out here, and just so thanks again for that. Here, yes, see, no. Okay, I don't know what's going on, but we're ending it anyways. So thank you guys for being here.